Alright, we are on part 3 of my Europe trip series, and today I'm going to go over our trip to Munich, Germany. So in the last video, we left off in Paris. Kara parted ways with us. She headed towards Spain where she'd be studying for the next couple of months, and Hannah and I used our Europass to get a ticket to Munich. Okay, so I have a little bit of a confession to make. When Hannah and I were planning our trip, we knew we wanted to go to Italy, we knew we wanted to go to Spain, we knew we wanted to go to France, but then we had one extra country that we could go to with our Europass, and we just kind of randomly picked Germany. Before this summer, I actually knew nothing about Germany. So it was a complete wild card, and we had no idea what it was going to be like. So when Hannah and I got off the train in Munich, not only was it raining, but it was much, much colder than it was in Spain. And we had to wander around in the rain for a while looking for a hostel, but eventually we found it. Oh, I almost forgot. Okay, when we first got off the train, in the train station, right away I saw this huge sign with my name on it, and I think it must be a German company or something, but there was a huge sign that said Datev, which is really rare for me because I have an Armenian name, and you don't see it or hear it anywhere in America. So I thought that was really cool, and I took a picture. Okay, anyway, when Hannah and I checked into our hostel in Munich, when we finally went in our room, I couldn't even believe it. We were paying the same exact price that we paid in Paris, but this place in Munich was 100 times better. We had our own room with separate beds, we had a little balcony where we could eat breakfast, we had our own shower. It was the cutest thing ever. I actually can't pronounce the name of the hostel, but I think it is Hotel Pension Schmellergarten. I'm not sure if that's right. If you ever are staying in Munich, I highly, highly recommend it. There's free breakfast, and it's super cute, and there's a cute little place to eat, and it's walking distance from the center of town. So I absolutely loved it, and I recommend it to anybody. Hannah and I went to bed shortly after we got there because we were really tired, but that way we were able to get up early, get a good breakfast, and head into town. Okay, so Munich is the capital of Bavaria, and is the third largest city in Germany behind, I believe, Berlin and Hamburg. And the city's motto is, okay, again, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but it is München mag dich, which means Munich likes you, and I think that is the perfect motto that explains the general attitude of the people that we met in Munich. Everybody was so friendly and so hospitable and just so welcoming. Hannah and I immediately felt at home when we were there. So the first place Hannah and I went was the center of Munich, which is this large open square, which is called Marienplatz, if I'm saying it right. And there was this really pretty building. It looked like a church, but it's actually the new town hall. And Hannah and I noticed immediately the really clear difference in architecture in Germany as opposed to places like Spain and France. Everything in Germany is so magical and whimsical. And I remember one of the first things Hannah said was, "Oh my god, this is just like Disney World."
This looks like Disney World.
Yeah.
Like, look over there. Like, that just looks like Disney World. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder what they said no. Wait a minute. Look. And you guys find the...
We also found this huge outdoor market. I don't have any video of it, but I have a picture. But as soon as we walked into it, the smell was so overwhelming. It was amazing. You could smell like cinnamon sticks and freshly baked pretzels and honey and chocolate, and there's like potpourri and all kinds of stuff. And there were a bunch of wooden cuckoo clocks for sale, and puppets and marionettes, and it was just like Pinocchio. It was like a fairy tale. So Hannah and I had planned to meet up with two of her friends that she had studied abroad with in San Sebastian, Christy and Matt. We were going to meet them in Munich, but we didn't know exactly where, and Hannah had an international phone, but it only had a couple minutes on it. So Christy called us, and we tried to describe to her where we were, but we really didn't know the name of it or anything at that time.
With the gold thing on it too, okay? So if you can see the column with the gold thing, it's like kind of small, but you should be able to see it.
So eventually Hannah ran out of minutes on her phone, and we had no way to contact them. So Hannah actually climbed up on top of the metro entrance to see if she could see them. Can you see them?
No, not yet. But I'm looking.
And so by some miracle, we were able to find them. And when we did, they said they were super hungry. And so Hannah and I had the idea to go to the Hofbrauhaus, which is a famous beer brewery. And so we just strolled along and enjoyed the street music until we got there. So when you first walk into the Hofbrauhaus, it's a little bit overwhelming because it's this huge restaurant full of picnic tables, rows and rows of picnic tables. And when we got there, it was completely packed. And we wandered around trying to find a waiter for a while. And we eventually found one, and Matt asked him if he could get us a table. And he said, if you find an open table, let me know. And so we were like, okay. And so we wandered around inside, then we went outside. And we finally found a few spaces on the end of a picnic table, but there was already a German couple sitting there. And so we asked them if it was okay if we joined them, and they were really nice, of course, like everyone else is in Munich, and they said, yes, you can sit with us. And so we sat down and we each ordered a beer.
It's a two-handed deal.
And the food was actually really good too. I didn't know a lot about German food before I went there, but my only impression of it was there was probably like a lot of sausage and meat, and I'm a vegetarian, so I was really actually worried if I was going to find anything to eat there. But all the vegetarian food I had there was delicious. There was always like a vegetarian sandwich option and all that kind of stuff. And for dinner at the Hofbrauhaus, I got a cheese spatzel, which kind of reminds me of like a risotto or something like that, but it was delicious. So after we finished our dinner at the Hofbrauhaus, we decided that we wanted to go beer tasting and we wanted to try more German beers. So we went to a few other bars and tried some different kinds out. And I remember one bar we went into, they played all old American music, and I was really surprised that everyone knew the words to YMCA. So after familiarizing ourselves with German beer, we were feeling pretty good, and we decided to run around Munich and take pictures with every statue we could find, and the lions were definitely our favorite. We even ran into a guy who Hannah was convinced was Taylor Lautner, which now looking at the picture I'm pretty sure is not Taylor Lautner. So we had a very fun-filled night in Munich, and even though we were out pretty late, we were up early the next morning to meet Matt and Christy in Marienplatz, where we were the day before. So Hannah and I waited out front of the new town hall, which is where we plan on meeting them. And when we got there, we noticed that everyone was staring up at the tower, like they were waiting for something to happen, and we had no idea what was going to happen. But I started filming it just in case something did happen. So that is called the Glockenspiel, and it dates back to 1908. Every day at 11 a.m. The bells chime and the little figures go around and reenact stories from the 16th century. And so Hannah and I were pretty lucky because we had no idea that that even existed or what time it went off or anything. We just happened to be there at the right time. So after we met up with Matt and Christy, we decided to walk around and listen to the street music. And I have to say, out of all the countries, all the cities that I went to, Munich had the most amazing street music I've ever heard. that I learned on this trip is that some of the best experiences that we had were ones that we didn't plan, that just kind of happened spontaneously. And one of those was the bike tour that we ended up taking. So we had seen this 8-person bicycle drive by us, and everyone on the bike was facing the center, which had a table. And they were all drinking beer, and there was one driver who wasn't drinking, just kind of driving around town. And when we saw it, we're like, we have to do that. And so we went around looking for this beer bike, I don't know what to call it. And we went to every tour bike place and asked them where we could find one, until eventually we walked in one place, and this Australian guy that worked there was like, no, you don't want to do that. It's stupid. You should come on a bike tour instead. And we were a little skeptical at first, but we're like, whatever, we don't know what else to do. And so the place was actually called Mike's Bike Tours, and it ended up being one of the best experiences of our trip. And I definitely recommend checking out Mike's Bike Tours when you go. I had never been on a bike tour before, but they are a great way, if you're visiting a place for a short amount of time, they're a great way to see a lot of the city. Walking tours are great also, but you can't cover as much distance. And bus tours are good, but you're not really outside in the city experiencing the sounds and the smells the way you are when you're riding a bike. So the way the tour worked is we would all ride our bikes single file following our tour guide, and occasionally we would stop at different sites. One of my favorite places we stopped was a really large old church that was almost completely white in the interior, and I'd never really seen anything like that before. Another place that we loved that we visited was the English Gardens, which is a huge urban public park, and it's one of the largest in the world, and it's actually bigger than Central Park. And in the center of the park, there's another large outdoor beer garden, and our tour group stopped there to have lunch and to have liter beers once again. And after lunch, we headed back, and on the way, we saw something so cool. It is actually something called river surfing. And there's a man-made river that runs through the park, and there's like a dam that creates this artificial wave, and it's kind of like a wave house. Have you ever seen them like on cruise ships or at like Disney World or something like that? But surfers just line up on the edge of the river and take turns jumping in and surfing it. And it actually looks really dangerous because there's cement on either side, and there's these jagged rocks, and when they fall, they get flung into the water, and I got scared every time they would fall. But Hannah's actually a really great surfer, and she surfs in Florida all the time. And she thought it was really cool, and we kind of made a plan to come back there one day and try it out ourselves.
Me neither.
So after a full day of riding our bikes around Munich, it was finally time to go back to our hostel. On our way back, the sun started to set, and it was perfect because it was just the right angle to hit all the golden mosaics that were on all of the buildings, and they were just sparkling everywhere. Also, dandelions are in season in Europe, and just as the sun was setting really low in the sky and the clouds were all a deep orange, a gust of wind picked up all the dandelion seeds, and they were dancing in the air, and there was this just beautiful sunset that we got to see on our last night in Munich. That night, Hannah and I had one more drink with Christy and Matt, and it was really sad saying goodbye to them. We went to sleep, and in the morning we had to catch our train to Fussen, Germany.